to prevent
All
maybe
right.
distraction from someone else's background.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so you're all welcome to today's webinar, and I'm sure you already know that it is being organized by Parapo Africa. I'm going to talk about Parapo Africa in a couple of minutes so that we all know what exactly it's about. Well, I want to just start by saying that this is strictly academic. It's about the education processes for applying to schools. And so let's try to keep it within this frame, okay? So, well, this goes more to the audience than to the speakers. And so let's try to make our questions and ready. I am from Ghana and I am a co-founder of Parapo Africa. And today I am hosting this event with my co-host, Tolu. She's going to introduce herself very soon. And so Tolu, over to you.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Tolokwe, like Marina mentioned, and I'm also a co-host at Parapo Africa. Just to give you a little rundown of what we do at Parapo Africa, kindly stay tuned to your seats and just enjoy this quick short video. Thank you.
I think we're having a few issues with the sound, and so we will resolve that presently. Yes, we're trying to work on that.
Oh,
Tolu,
I'm
could you
just.
please work on the sound for us?
What did you say?
Could you please work on the sound for us? So Parapo Africa is a group of people, you know, as the video comes on, I just want to give a short summary about what we are and what we aim to do. So we're a group of people from Africa, and I say this because I am from Ghana and the other members are from Nigeria, but the aim is to really gather African students who are schooling out of Africa and to form a network to educate others in the application processes and to be of help to one another in the future. Okay, so it's really a network creation process. And so this is what the group is about. And we are 4 founding members. You've met myself, you've met Tolu, there's Laolu, and there's Itoha as well. You will meet them very soon in the video. And so this is one of several webinars that we have organized and will continue to organize. We have various platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram that we will ask you to follow. So we will try to get you all to do that, to follow and subscribe to our various pages before the end of this webinar. But I don't know if Tolu, you have the video ready now. We can check
Yeah,
that
the video is ready.
Okay, let's see if it works perfectly now.
Hello everyone, my name is Marina. My name is Itoha Edupolo. My name is Stella Pellicino. And we are the co-founders of Parapo Africa. Parapo Africa is an organization of young Africans that seek to impact the continent through many ways, including education and networking. This was started based on our experiences schooling out of the African continent. We identified some common issues among African students and graduates. The various limitations preventing them from aiming higher along their career paths, as well as any possible advantages associated with schooling in a foreign country. We're starting from education and we're going to branch out into other areas. With the goal of enriching the lives of young African adults and also enabling collaborations to make the continent better. Please join us on this journey. Follow our page, like, subscribe, tell a friend, join the Zoom meetings, and please don't forget, it's all about collaboration. Hello everyone, my name is Olaudu Abraimo. My name is Marina Amwenyama. My name.
Okay, so I'm sure that you all just saw that, and at least now you also have an idea of what Parapo Africa is about. Apparently, there's someone who still can't hear us. I can't get through to the person. I was notified by someone else that someone can't hear us. Okay, so at least now you have a general idea about what Parapo Africa is. And as I said earlier, it's made up of various students and all that. So now we will move on to the speakers we have today. We have representing today someone from China, another person from France, and the last person from Italy. And so they are going to tell us their various experiences during the application processes, their experiences in the various countries that they find themselves in. And then we are going to take questions from these people, these speakers. And so without much wasting of time, we will go to Olivia. If you can tell us about yourself, tell us about your experiences, and then, you know, we'll move on from there. We will pose questions as you go on, and then other things.
Okay, thank you, Marina. My name is Olivia Adebankat, and I recently graduated Southwest University of Science and Technology in China. And because this talk is basically about education in other continents, I think outside Africa, I want to talk about my educational journey. I started my bachelor's degree in Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana, where I studied bachelor's in environmental science. And then I did my national service and then worked for a couple of months and then decided to further my studies as in do my MSc, still in the same field, environmental science and engineering. And that is what led me to China. So a brief summary, do I go into how I started my application process or just talk about studying here in general?
Well, yes, you can tell us about that. Why did you decide to study in China, for instance? And you know.
Okay, good. That's a good question. I tried to study in China because I found out that they had very flexible educational packages. It's actually very favorable. Yeah, it's there are lots of full scholarships in China, and they come with stipend, free accommodation. So basically, the only thing you fund is your application process, and I found that to be very convenient. So I decided to give it a try. I had already spoken to people schooling in China, and then I realized that the quality of education is something I found okay. Coming at a free rate, I felt was good. I was even going to get stipend too, and it was easy to get the scholarships. So that was one of the main reasons why I decided to stay in China.
Okay, so you are studying on scholarship, evidently.
Yes, full scholarship with stipend.
Okay, all right. I think we will probably move to the other speakers to hear from them for a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back to you. So we'll be switching within the speakers. So thank you very much. Now we will move to Mr. France, which is Enoch.
Yep.
We happen to be in the same country, so nice to meet you, Enoch.
Nice to meet you as well, Mariana.
So which city are you in?
I'm currently in Paris. I studied in Lille. So yeah, I moved to Paris last year after my degree. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So can you also tell us why you decided to, well, you can start from pre-application process and then probably go into why you decided to study in France, or a few other things leading to why you are in France.
All right. Okay, so my story is pretty similar to Olivia's. We're actually in the same program back in Kwame Nkrumah University of Science Technology. We both studied environmental science. I also did my national service right after that, and then just before the end of my national service, I had the opportunity to come to France. So whilst I was looking for universities and master's degrees to do, I was actually thinking of going to Germany. So Germany was my first option and probably my only option. I applied to several universities there, and neither of them was successful, which is really bizarre because apparently Germany is one of the easiest countries to apply to if you're going to do a master's. So yeah, I applied to several environmental engineering degrees, environmental engineering in renewable energy, in management, and in the science as well. And then since I didn't get into any of them, I was actually kind of about giving up and saying, okay, you know what, I might as well just continue in Ghana. I mean, there's no harm in working in Ghana. So I continued applying, and then just as I was about to give up, I found a school in France, which had apparently got into an agreement with KNUST, my former university, and I decided to inquire because the deadline had passed 6 weeks prior. So I was actually pretty late in applying. So when I sent an inquiry that if it's okay if I can still apply, they were like, yes, definitely, sure. And I was like, well, that took me by surprise. So I just sent in my degree, my CV, and stuff, like all the requirements. And from then on, we progressed to an online exam, proficiency exam in French, and in some other courses, science and physics and stuff like that. And once I passed that, I was taken to the next stage, which was an interview. So we had a one-on-one interview with the organizers of the program and so on and so forth. And then from there, I had my admission. So I mean, coming to France was actually not part of my plan, but it actually ended up working quite well. Yeah, so that's how I ended up in France.
So you are schooling in France on scholarship, is that it?
No. Yeah, so about that, I didn't get a scholarship like other people. My university had an agreement with KNUST to, bring students in who were in their third year and complete their final year and do one more year in their masters. Okay, so I wasn't part of that program, so I came on my own by just randomly applying. So I didn't get the scholarship, but the other students did get scholarships. So it's possible for you to get a scholarship from the French government, Campus France, I think, and then there's one called the Eiffel Scholarship as well. So yeah, that's where you can get scholarships. Yeah, that's what I know. So I didn't get any any of those scholarships at all. Yeah.
Sure. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will move on now to a speaker from Italy, Arnold. And I actually was in the same class with Arnold. And so, well, I leave it to him now to introduce himself. Can you please tell us why you chose your school, why you chose your country, and whether you are schooling on scholarship?
Okay, thank you very much. I am Arnold Bento, and then I also completed KNUST. I was actually in the same class with Marina, like she said. And then I also have a similar story to Enox. I did a couple of applications, you have to do more. So I applied to schools in Germany, to France, to Italy, to Canada, and all that. I did a lot. So during my right after school, you have to go into the national service. So during the national service, I had opportunity to do a couple more applications. So some were have funding and some others to no funding at all. But it happens that I couldn't really go or take opportunities of any of them. So I had to, sorry. So I had to, someone says she disagrees on the quantity of application. That's fair.
Well, The
That's
point
fine.
is that you're introducing yourself now, so
Okay,
it is
okay,
your
okay,
story. So you go
okay,
on.
okay. So I
Go
had a
on.
couple
So we'll
more
get back to the person.
because naturally you have a destination. You see, you want to. My destination was to get into a country with an English background so that maybe you can easily fit. So that was the plan. But the point is that the Canada school that I had was half funding, and then the rest of the funding was a bit more difficult to get. So we had to abandon the plan. And then came the Germany as well. And then the Germany story is easier. You have, I think, for masters programs in Germany, they are tuition free. So you basically will have to your accommodation and the rest of the things will be your burden. But the school there is no tuition at all. And the Germany too didn't work out. So finally, I had a full funding in Italy, and then I had to settle for a school in Italy. Yeah. So
Okay,
I
so what
am
are you
I am
studying?
so I am studying economics. I did economics in my bachelor's, and then I'm doing a master's degree in economics as well in the University of Verona. I'll be hopefully I'll be graduating in September, maybe a Zoom graduation or something similar. So yeah,
Congratulations in advance.
thank you.
All
Yeah,
right,
so
so
that has been the journey, and then maybe later we will um, answer specific questions concerning the application and then procedures. I also want to add that there are also several scholarships that exist here. Italy has one of the lowest tuition fees in Europe, and for Africans, you may have some reductions. And then there
oh,
are a wide range of scholarships that exist from government to departmental. I am on the departmental scholarship. So as in the economics of department scholarship, there are also government scholarship that you can also be on. So if I'm holding brief for my country, I can say that we also have some scholarships that you can also enjoy. You may want to
for
consider.
your country.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I think I'll go back to China now. I would like to know how you started your application process. Was it tedious? Did you have to submit a lot of documents? Did you need a lot of recommendations, for instance? Can you tell us something about that?
Okay, so there's a general story for applications in China, and then there's my story. So, yeah,
Okay.
mainly in China, um, I don't know, this is a certain era where they are beginning to welcome international students. They want to sort of build their education around us, and they want to have a certain standard for international students. They are now opening that up. And because of that, it's given a lot of universities, they've made the application process quite flexible. However, at the same time, they are most universities, I wouldn't say they, it's stereotypical. Most universities are used to dealing with agencies and people that they know. So in my case, I applied with an agent, not even an agency. Yes, and this was because I knew people that were already studying there. I had friends who were already studying. Yes, so somebody knew somebody who sort of referred an agent who did my application for me. In that case, there are two types. Dealing with agents, there are two types. Okay, I got somebody who didn't really have a collaboration with the school. However, as I earlier mentioned, most schools like dealing with agencies. In those cases, those schools do not really deal with students directly. They will want you to apply through an agent or an agency. But in my case, the school was still open to taking people if they had applied. But then I happened to apply to an agent. And because of
Okay.
that, my application process, I was on the blind side, sort of. I just had to give my program I was interested in, and then the agent demanded documents as and when the school demanded it.
Okay.
So I was just informed that I got a school and I had to make payments before even knowing the identity of the school. So I did not pick my school. Yeah. Yes.
You
You are
had to
just
make
assured.
payment to the agency.
Yes. Before I could even know the school I was going to because he doesn't really have the contact with the school. If I had known the identity of the school and had just Googled them and called them, my admission document could have been sent directly to me instead of to him for him to collect the money. Yeah. So then in that case, I was blindsided. However, most agencies have a certain rapport or agreement with the schools. And in that case, they don't mind giving you a range of schools they work with for you to decide. As in check the school out, check out their campuses, how okay you are with the school before they apply for you. Yes. So my story is not really like for everybody, but then when you're trying to apply to China, mostly you deal with agents. However, there's also the option of just Googling the schools in China, schools in provinces in China, going straight to their website and applying. That works totally. And there are so many full scholarships, so many with stipend, different ranges depending on your the type of master's degree you're doing. Even for undergraduates, I think the worst you can get is like a partial scholarship. And also depending on the program, because for medical students, due to the number of students that are the influx from Africa, now it is very difficult to have scholarship for medical students. However, most other programs still give full scholarships with stipends. Yes. So that is the story for China. And then there are some platforms, they are not agencies, like it's called Kukas. You can just type it out, pay your application fees, and with that you can check out the schools, you have the options of choosing, and then you can get very, very good scholarships in China. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, I would like to know if you weren't scared as far as the agency was concerned. I mean,
Oh,
could
okay.
have been
So
anything.
in this case, because I knew somebody who was here, like somebody who knows the agent. So
Okay.
yes. So that was the case. But then my only option was to sort of check the school out after I had paid for it. And then when I did and I was satisfied with the conditions, it was even only then that I could certify if my documents were authentic. So it's quite risky. And I would not really recommend that for most people. I'll just advise that with what I know now, if you know people in China who are studying, just contact them. They can help you apply with no stress. Because as I mentioned, the schools like dealing with people. So if I walk to my international student office, it's easier for me to get an admission for somebody than the person applying online. Yeah, that's the problem. But then you can still try your luck and then just go online, Google a school, call the admissions office, talk to them. If they strike that relationship with you, it's very easy to get a scholarship and get a very good school.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We are going to move on to France to ask about the application process as well, and then take the questions later.
Okay, so my application process was pretty straightforward. Nothing like Olivia's. So what I did was I just Googled schools in France, first and foremost. I found my school, Institut Supérieur d'Agriculture. I found that. And then what I did was I just contacted the international office. And I asked if it's still possible for me to apply. Is it too late? Because the deadline was 6 weeks before. And I wasn't sure, but I just took the chance. I asked, and then they were like, "Yes, definitely, I can still apply." So they gave me a list of requirements. Whatever they needed: CV, degree, transcript, all that, recommendation letter, and everything. And then I just scanned it to them, sent it to them. The next day, I got a reply that they would like to have me for the online test. I passed that. And then went to the interview, a 30-minute interview, got the admission, and that was it. So it was really straightforward. There was no left or right or anything, just directly through the school. So you can definitely apply directly through schools. I think you also get quicker replies that way. So that was basically my application process.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So we move on to Arnold now, the same thing. Can you kindly tell us, what you went through as far as applications was concerned?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I searched for the school myself, and then I had friends here. So you want to ask them the kind of school they are in, or maybe so you want to ask which school are you in and all that. So you have all of this information, and then you want to search for more yourself. I think the story of the agency still goes through because there are certain people who will be here, knows the process, and will want to take some monies from you and then do the application on your behalf. Basically, it works in two ways. One, people do not want to go through the stress of searching and doing all those things themselves. And then, or maybe they think that the one doing it has a better shot of getting them the admission. So maybe they want the money to work for them. So you give those guys the monies, but there is also the risk of maybe you not getting what maybe you deserve at all. So I would recommend that you search for the school yourself. You go to the department you want to school there, and then look at the, how do you call them, the requirements, if you meet the requirements. In general, the requirements for schools in Italy will be for, you need a CV, a transcript, your degree, and then a statement of intent or a statement of purpose. I think it cuts across for most of the universities, or even outside Italy. So you will need a statement of intent, and then the other documents I've mentioned. There may be a last requirement which will differ from school to school, which will be a GRE requirement.
Okay.
For some schools it will be optional, other schools it will be.
Was that so in your case?
Well, I don't have a GRE, so it is a non-starter for me. I try to avoid schools that will request for a GRE. Or if I even want to choose such a school, it will be maybe optional, not mandatory. You wouldn't want a mandatory school because if a school requires a mandatory GRE, it becomes a standard for assessment. So if you don't have, then more or less you are ignored. So if you don't have GRE like myself, then you want to search for more schools and then avoid the ones that do not have do not require GRE, and then you choose. The application fee in Italy, it is also mostly free. So now it gets to the point where I said many, because if it is free, then you can try your hands on a lot more. And some reference letters, some will require some reference letters, others who will not require any reference letters.
Were you asked to submit a reference letter?
Yeah, I think they asked for one reference letter, so I submit a reference letter.
Okay. So now I will want to hand over to my co-host, Tolu, to ask a couple of questions that we've had coming in. And so Tolu, can you please take over?
Yeah, thank you so much. Before I go to the questions I've been asked already, I would like to direct a question to Arnold already kind of answered the question on agencies as to like why or why not you should use an agency and like the advantages and disadvantages of doing that. But Olivia, for example, is there a way to apply to China without going through an agency? And what is the advantage of doing that?
Okay, so uh, there are advantages to using agents because, as I said, funny enough, the most schools here, some schools, I would say 50% would like to deal with agents directly. So in that case, they could allow you go through the process, all right, but they've given specific seats, number of students they want out to their agents. So in that case, you just can't get in. However, looking at the risks involved in using agencies, because there are so many schools in China, some don't even teach in English, in Chinese, and then it's easy to get an admission letter to a school in China, and you might come and then maybe you have to pay. You understand? The person tells you it's a package, and then you could really be stranded in this space. So you have to weigh the two. If you are not sure of the agency, it's not advisable. You can use the platform Hookahs. In that case, you can see the schools. Their application fees are quite high. Some go as high as $500. So I think with $1,500, you cannot even apply to so many schools. So that is the disadvantage with that. Yes, but then with some agencies, it's good to use them, not because you don't want to search for schools, but they get you the best packages. The schools deal with them. And those agents are not scared to give you the names of the school, because the truth of the matter is, if you try to go behind them, you are not going to get the school. And they are confident in that. You'll be surprised. It's an institution. They have an agreement with individuals. Yes. So they give them their cuts, they give them their monies. As I said earlier, China was in a position, they still are in a position where they are interested in getting a lot of international students into the educational system. So schools are awarded, like are given slots. Schools are giving monies for having international students. So it has become a sort of a business. Yeah, they pay agents to get them students. You understand? Yes. So then that is also there. So you can just take the risk and then apply by Googling the schools and contacting them directly, or you go to Cookers, and with that you spend so much. But the agents do not charge, well, it depends. They do not charge so much. I think a reasonable amount is around $1,000 to $1,500 after they have secured for you a package, a full scholarship with stipend package. Okay, so in my case, I found that to be quite reasonable. If I know I'm going to pay just a one-time amount and then it goes through, why not? So some agents are reliable, but there's still that risk.
Okay, thank you very much. You touched on one question I wanted to ask to three of the panelists today, but before I go on, if you have any question in the audience, please signify by either raising up your hand or post your question in the comment section and we'll get to you. Okay, you talked about having to learn the language. They speak Chinese in some schools and you might have issues with that. I don't know, this applies to the other panelists too. In Italy and France, did you have to either learn the language of the country before you left, or did you have to take a gap year when you first got to the country to learn the language, or did you not have to even learn the language at all? Were the courses taken in English?
Okay,
did you get my
so
question?
yes, I did. Can I answer first?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so in my case, my program is in English and I did not have to study before coming. And I just took a year of Chinese, which wasn't affecting my studies in any way. I think they just said that if your Chinese scores were so low, you might not get the scholarship for the next year because it's a 2-year program. However, it didn't really make a difference. But lately, and that's the thing with China, things change very fast. So lately, even my school has started, they are sort of trying to bring a system like the IELTS. So, but then it's gradual. So now they're saying that if you come into China to study, you have a year to write an exam called the HSK. And there's a level they expect you
Sorry?
to. HSK is a
Okay.
Chinese exam. So even though your program is in English, your teachers teach in English, everything is in English, they still want you to pass the HSK before your scholarship can take effect. That's a new policy that most schools are rolling out. So as I think that it could hold. But then in my case, I didn't have to learn the language, and then I still am not so good at the language, but then it didn't make a difference.
Okay, thank you very much. Would Enoch or Arnold like to share their experience on the language requirements for the schools they're in?
Oh, okay, I'll go. So in applying to France with my school, the case was during the online test that we did, one of the courses was French, and they would grade you on your French test before you come. So when you come to our school, they would have already categorized into which group you'd go. Are you an A1, like a beginner, or are you like a sort of intermediate or an A2? So when I wrote the exam, French online exam, I was an A2. So I went into the A2 group, whilst others went to the A1 group. And then in the following year, you would have to upgrade to a B1 minimum. That is one of the requirements to actually graduate. If you don't get to the B1 level, you're not going to graduate with your degree from the school. So that is what we did. And we didn't do a gap year. It was concurrently with your studies. And our program was completely in English. Everything was in English. So we just had to have like French lessons maybe twice or once a week, depending on our plan. So yeah, that was basically it. So we just have to make sure you do well in French, you pass your French exams, After that, you go and write an exam called the DELF. That's a French language diploma here in France with a minimum of B1. You go write the B1 exam. That will test your oral, your written, your reading, and your comprehension. Once you pass that exam and your results are sent to the school, then you are able to graduate, given that you pass the remainder of the exam. So yeah, that's basically it from my side. But I think in other government schools, it's not necessary for you to learn languages, as far as I know. You probably learn as you go on. I mean, some courses are completely done in French, so it's up to the student to learn, and there's no requirements to write an exam if the school doesn't require one. Yeah, but then our school required you to write an external exam on French. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I think if you are applying, the key thing you also want to check, if your destination is not maybe an English background, I'm with the premise that Nigeria and Ghana, we both have an English background. So if your destination country's medium of instruction is not English, then you want to check the courses, because some will have the medium of instruction to be in English, completely in English. For other courses, they may say 70 to maybe 70% in English and then 30% in Italian. And then for other courses, it may be completely in Italian. So in my school, the course I'm doing is completely in English. So I don't have an Italian language requirement or whatever it is. So if I go to Italian class, it is just for myself and then for living in the country, not necessarily for school activities. So you want to check before you apply, because if it's a requirement and you don't have, then probably it becomes difficult for you when you get here. So that's what happens. So I will try and as much as possible to avoid schools without schools where the language of instruction is completely in English. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope I've answered. I've answered.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so someone had a question. Nana had a question about the number of applications you made. I'm referring to you, Arnold. Is there a reason why you made so many applications? And is there a way to maybe make less applications rather than as many as you did?
Well, it's not really, I think it is personal. You may want to consider maybe have more options. Like I said, I started from desiring of going into an English, maybe a country with an English language, then I end up in Italy, you see. So at one point, you desire to go to the US or to go to UK or go to Canada. At another point, you see that all of those opportunities are closing, and then you want another shot elsewhere. So that may be the first basis. And then the secondly, if you realize at one point you realize that the application fees are free. So all that you need is a reference letter, sort of. You can have the same CV, same statement of intent or statement of purpose, same degree you have, whatever. The only thing that becomes difficult will be a reference letter you have to request from a professor or a lecturer. So if you can secure that and the application fee is free, you can have a lot more shots. For example, living in Italy, you can decide to apply to a lot more schools, not just one. Because one school can give you admission with no scholarship. Maybe another school probably will give you a full scholarship, you see. So it's like the way we live our lives, you want to maybe have alternatives for every other thing. So that's the idea. Not necessarily important.
Okay, thank you very much. You mentioned something about application fees being free in France. I don't know where all the schools you applied to, did you get an application waiver? Did you?
Yeah, I didn't pay anything for application. For France, it was completely free. And I think most of the people that I know who applied here didn't pay anything. But what we would pay is probably, once you get admission, is probably a deposit. That's probably the only payment I ever made, a deposit on my school fees. So my school fees is a certain amount that I have to pay maybe 10% of it, or of 5% of it at the time. That was the only payment that I made. But then for applications, no, as far as I know, no, there were no payments made. I didn't, because I was in direct communication with the school. So I didn't have to make any application payments. Unlike in Germany, where you have to pay depending on the website. So you would have to pay, I think I paid 75 euros per an application to Germany, and I sent 4, if I remember correctly, yes. So, but in France, not that I know of, nothing like that.
Okay. In China also, are there schools with application fees?
Yes, most schools, about 90% of schools take application fees. It's an equivalent of a little under $100. Yes, per school. Yes, so that's it. They take application fees, and some schools take the application fee after they have given you admission. It's approximately $70 application fee is standard for every school that takes the money.
Okay.
Okay. For Italy, most schools are free, especially for master's degree and below. The application fees are there is none. A few of the schools require some application fees, but that will be even below, maybe probably $50. It will be below because it's around 35. The maximum I've seen is around 35 euros. So it's probably below $50. But a lot more of them do not take application fees. So yeah, you get a waiver on others. Maybe for
Sorry,
PhD, some of them will, the ones that do not require fees during the masters, a lot more, you get some of them requiring some application fees for PhD. Yeah.
okay. So when you say free, are you referring only to applications or tuition as well? You said in Italy, most of the schools are free. Are you talking just about applications or tuition as well?
Yeah, her question was in relation to application fees.
Applications.
So, yeah, so
What about tuition?
tuition, the maximum you have to pay for international students will be, I've seen so far, is 2,000 euros. And for international students, there is also a reduction. You may get a 50% reduction. Okay, so 50 euros may be a little above maybe 1,000. Sorry, 2,000 euros will be a little above maybe $2,000, maybe 100 or something above $2,000. I'm not too sure about it. But that's what happens. But there is a chance for a reduction of 50% for international students. It may also even be lower than that, depending on the kind of school that you get, or maybe the location of the school. It may even be lower. I've seen as low as 400 and something euros as tuition.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. Arnold, we have a question for you, being that you are the only non-STEM person on our panel today. And we would like to know if there are any chances for maybe art students and social sciences. What are the opportunities available in your country of study for non-STEM students? Because usually STEM students are usually the ones with access to scholarships. But for you studying economics and for other arts subjects, what are the chances available?
Okay, chances, you mean for scholarship, for admission?
Yeah, scholarship,
Everything.
admission, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so first of all, there is the government scholarship, which is we call the Invest Your Talent. So the government has a list of schools that are under them. So you have to go to the website, which you can easily Google Invest Your Talent. And then you have a list of the schools that they have this partnership with. And then for each school that you go under the Invest Your Talent website, you see the list of courses that are available or that will be sponsored. You see, so there is this one shot, and then there's also going directly onto the school's website and looking at the courses that they run there, and then if your course of interest is available, you want to apply. I think they run all of those courses and then all of them are available. It's even for languages and all the other courses that you can think of is available that you can apply. For scholarships, the Invest Your Talent is one of the first government scholarship. And then with that one, if you're able to secure, your visa becomes automatic. You will be awarded, you will get a visa very easily. It's very difficult for you to be denied a visa if you get the Invest Your Talent scholarship. There may also be the university scholarship or a departmental scholarship, the one I am on, for example. And then there's also the regional scholarships. So in each region in Italy, or province in Italy, they have regional scholarships that they run every time, which more or less is equal to the value of my my departmental scholarship that I am on. So if you get to Italy, there is a likelihood that you can have some form of scholarship to enjoy.
Just before you leave, Akosua is asking about the tuition fees you mentioned in Italy. He says, do you mean that £2,000, or sorry, €2,000 for international students? And does it apply to all schools or some specific programs?
I mentioned that the maximum I've seen so far is 2,000. Tuition is relatively low, okay? Tuition is relatively low. Like France can also have the same story, and then also in Germany. Like, I mean, even Germany has a zero fees for master's program, the public school. So in the public school, tuition is relatively low. The maximum I've seen so far is €2,000. So if you seek a reduction, so in my case, I have a reduction of 50%. So I pay €1,000, which is more or less covered by my scholarship. So I do not pay directly. So it is covered by my scholarship. So because the tuition is really low, if you get maybe a funding of, let's say, €5,000, it may be that you can pay the accommodation from it, pay your tuition from it, and then even get some as stipend. Do you get a point? You may not necessarily have to get a funding of about 5,000, sorry, €15,000 or maybe €20,000 before you can be completely fine. For as low as 5,000, you can be fine. You can pay your tuition of 1,000, accommodation of about, let's say, 2,500, and you will have a little, or let's say 1,500, or let's say even 2,000 as stipend. As to whether it will be enough for the year, I'm not really, but you may get something as stipend. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing that with us. For those of you that might want access to the names of the scholarships and the agencies that our panelists have used today, we are going to collect these details and send it to you through the emails you used to register with. Before we draw this session to a close, we want to ask one final question to all our panelists. What were the major challenges you faced in the beginning of your application journey? What advice would you give to people that are about to start or are currently on the application journey about what challenges to look out for and how to overcome them? Did you get my question?
Okay, I don't know if I should go first or Olivia, would you go? Okay, Olivia, go first.
Okay. Uh, kind of school I was in earlier, the agent, the application process was and I think
Excuse me, Olivia, we can't hear you clearly. I think it might be some issue with your network.
Well, in the meantime, I think another person can take the question while we wait for her connection to.
All right, so I'll go.
Yeah.
With the challenges that I face, maybe the one that stands out is probably with the accommodation. Seeing that I wasn't on any sort of scholarship at all, I had to find accommodation on my own. One challenge that I faced was I had to go through an agent, a property agent here in France. And some of the the requirements that they needed were a bit high in terms of currencies, in terms of how much I had to pay. Sometimes I had to pay two months deposits at a time, which was ridiculous. But normally it's just the 1 month. And yeah, I think that for me was the biggest hurdle that I had to overcome, finding accommodation that is suitable to you, because the prices can be very high here in France, depending on where you're going to stay. And also, if you don't have a scholarship, you don't have access to the campuses, which are much cheaper, and where you also have further reductions from the government as well. So look out for an accommodation in the government premises. I think that's probably one mistake that I made, and yeah. So that's it. Just accommodation for me was the biggest issue.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, Arnold.
Okay, in my case, for Italy's application, during the visa application, you will need a translation of your documents into Italian. Okay, so I think that's something that is not common, or you may not be used to until it gets really late. So if you decide to maybe apply to Italy, I will advise you to get those documents ready, or have in your mind that you have to do translation at one point in your application. And you have to translate your high school diploma, your high school transcript, and then from there upwards. So all the other sets that you have. So from high school to maybe if you have a bachelor's or you have a master's degree, you have to translate them into Italian, which they have translators certified by the embassies to do. I think that's the only weird thing, or maybe something you may want to take note of it and prepare for it, the translation. Which
okay. So Olivia, I don't know if we still have you. Are you?
Karina, can you hear me?
I can, but there's still an issue with your connection. It's not clear enough. But well, in any case, we will move on to another thing. On the subject of languages, I would like to know how easy life is if you don't speak the language. For Italian and French, is it easy to just go out and buy things? Is it easy to integrate in the community? Things like that. Do you need a language at all costs to integrate?
Okay, I'll go again.
I think Enoch, you can take this question. Yeah.
Okay. Language is key. Language is key. You can't ignore taking the language seriously. What it is if you have plans, I mean, even if you don't have plans of taking the language seriously, you have to take it seriously, because every day you're going to mingle with the locals. You're going to go to the shop to buy things. You're going to, take a bus, take a train. You need to speak the language. And also for your own professional career, it's also good that you learn the language for yourself. Also, depending on where you are, a lot of people may not be willing to speak English. All they know is French. Okay, so if you do not take the time to speak French, you would find yourself very frustrated in France. So yeah, I think definitely look hard and try and study French as much as possible. What other thing could be that when you are studying, you would also have to do an internship. In my case, I had to do an internship in a company, and the medium of communication was French. You cannot pass that internship if you don't do it in French. So yes, you have to take your French seriously, and stuff like that. It also depends, like I said, on the city or the place you'll be. For example, here in Paris, you may find a few more people who are willing to speak English, but that may not be the case for everybody around France. Okay, so in Paris, yes, there's a bit more flexibility than in other areas of the country. So yeah, that's what I can say.
And so in France, you're saying that needed to
That's
speak
needed,
French
definitely,
for
definitely,
the professional and daily lives. Okay, so what
definitely.
about Italian? Is it the same case for Italian?
Mm, probably, yeah, sure. You need the language, not so much if you want to interact. Even though maybe they are mostly speaking their language, they do not want to interact in English, but you can get by. The
Okay.
only problem becomes that you want to work, maybe after school, you want to or apply and get some work, and then
Mm.
you can't really speak the language, and then the opportunity really goes away. So that's the only difficulty, because with schoolwork, it is fully in English, so you don't have any problem. Outside, you can easily go and get maybe groceries or whatever you need easily. Now the problem becomes so some of this, my school, for example, has some partnership with some companies. So maybe
Okay.
you may even be done, and then a company, if you have a very good grade or you did very well, they can contact you, or blah blah blah. You want to maybe work with us and all that, and then at the end of the day, the opportunity goes away because you can't really speak the language.
Speak Italian.
So more or less, it's really important that you know. If you know, you may get a job after school if you have the desire of staying anyway. So if if you are in the Rasta community, you want to come to school, just finish and go back to your country, then you are fine. You can just get by. But if for one or two reasons you want to stay here and then you want a job, without the language, it becomes really, really difficult.
Okay.
It becomes really, really difficult because they really speak the Italian. English becomes it's very minimal. So
All right. So we have received the answer of Olivia's, for this question, and Tolu will take that up. She will give us Olivia's answer for the
Yeah,
question I just asked in relation to languages in China,
yeah.
Mandarin.
Olivia put a comment in the chat section that says, just like Enoch said, the language is vital for your personal convenience. Speaking Chinese can help you with every aspect of your life, and you're likely to get more opportunities if you do speak. She personally, she doesn't speak as much as she would like to, but she speaks basic Mandarin. So, like, just a summary of what everyone has said, you don't need to learn the language to move to the country, but just for basic life, for communication, to get the things you need, you might need to learn a bit of the language. And I think that's important. I mean, it's nice to learn a language. You can keep it on your CV and for your personal use. Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to ask another thing in relation to job opportunities as a student. This is job opportunities while studying. Do you think that there are lots of opportunities for that? And do the visas allow for things like that? Well, I know for France to some extent, but I will allow you to tell us more about it. I don't know for China, so probably China can start with this question. Um, what do you have to say about student opportunities, please, Olivia?
Um, can I try speaking? Can you hear me? Or should I
Yes.
continue? Okay, great.
Hey.
So in China, there are very limited opportunities for students. As I said earlier, unless of course you are very fluent in Mandarin, that could help. And also because the labor, they have a lot of human resources, so they really do not need foreigners as much. However, and also it is illegal to teach on your student visa. You would be arrested, you would be deported. It's a big deal.
And so there are
However,
no student opportunities. Okay, go on.
no, you can't do anything as a student. That is why it's very important to come on full scholarship. Your
Okay.
stipends are just for your survival. You might even have to call home for money. Some people try to work, some
Okay.
people manage to work, but if you are caught, you will be arrested, you will be detained, and you will be deported. So it's not advisable to sort of have that as your only backup. And it's very, very important to get a school that gives you stipends, at least something to survive with. So, and also when you're done with school here, there are some institutions or some companies that would want to have foreign talent, they call it. But you'd still have to be dealing with Chinese if it's going to be a managerial role, another administrative role, even if it's going to be an internship, you'd have to deal with Chinese, majority of whom do not speak English. Even those who speak English have are shy. They are very shy people. They would want to avoid you. That is why the language is important. People who are even supposed to help you in their official capacities would avoid you because you are speaking English and you are not speaking Chinese. So if you are able to learn the language, you have some chance of getting a job here, which could be a translator or something of that sort.
But this is after your studies, not during your studies.
Yes, after your studies, you are
Okay.
going to have to do a documentation and transfer your visa before you can work, or else you will be arrested. You will be
Okay.
detained. It's a serious issue.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you briefly tell us, France, if this is the same case, or do you have something else to
Well, you won't be
contribute?
arrested, you won't be detained, you won't be deported in France, that's for sure. I know some students who do work whilst they study, especially in the big cities. So obviously, Paris is very possible. There are a lot of student jobs available, babysitting, teaching, waitering, restaurant cleaning, that kind of thing. There are a lot of jobs for students. But where I was in Lille, it was not the case, especially in my school. My school's a private school, so I was occupied every day of the week. And in my program, it involved a lot of traveling as well. So I never really was stable enough to find a job. So in some country, I mean, in some cities, yes. So it may be in Toulouse, it's possible. In Paris, it's possible. The big cities, Bordeaux, Marseille, it's possible to find a job. But
Okay.
in smaller cities, and also depending on your schedule, no, it's very limited. Yeah.
All right. Arnold, can you quickly tell us about that for Italy? We have a couple of minutes left. We have just a couple of minutes left. And so I don't know if anyone has any other questions. We will be receiving questions, but try to make it as quick as possible. Yes, Arnold, we are waiting for you now.
Okay, for Italy, it is very limited opportunities while you are schooling. So it becomes paramount that you have full scholarship or of any form, whether the regional or a scholarship of any form. Because maybe if you may get such opportunities, it may be in the very big cities there, maybe Florence, Milan, and all that. But even for those cities, I'm not really sure for students' jobs. So the opportunities are limited.
Is it that you can't work with a visa, or there just aren't a lot of opportunities? Which is,
I don't know of any requirements with the visa, but the
okay.
opportunities are really limited. So you see that the funding you will get will be enough for you to live and all that. But if you were able to secure a job, fine. But the opportunity, as you are asking about opportunities, I would say that they are very limited.
Okay. All right. So yes, as I said earlier, we have just a few more minutes left. I don't know if the audience have any questions to ask. But well, we have a feedback form and we would like you all to fill them out so that we know where to improve for our next webinars. We have other webinars on our YouTube channel, which is Parapo Africa. We spoke about Parapo Africa and what it stands for early on, sorry. And so if there still aren't any more questions, yes, I would like to mention that in France, students can work for 20 hours with their student visa. And so I know quite a number of people who did that. Tolu, I don't know if there's any other thing you would want to add at this point.
But no, it's fine. I think most of the questions have been answered and we have said all that needs to be said. Just want to say a big thank you to our panelists and for joining us today and for sharing your experiences with us. We look forward to having you on our platform in future. And I'll hand over to Marina to close the session now.
Okay, so once again, we have our Instagram page. I think that's how it's said. I'm not on Instagram, so forgive me if I get it wrong. But we have our YouTube channel as well, Parapo Africa. Do subscribe to that. We have also a Facebook page and a Twitter handle, which is Parapo Africa as well. So thank you all today for joining us. We'll be holding extra sessions. We will also be putting up different contents on our YouTube channel, related to school, education, and other aspects of our lives as young Africans, because the whole idea is to improve our lives, so that we can also improve the continent. And so if there's someone is signaling, okay. Can we take Marcus Abba? Tony, do we have the time to do that, please?
Marcus, is there an issue?
Okay.
Can you just, what's the issue?
It was a mistake. So it was a mistake.
Oh, it was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
Okay. All right. So I hope that you have learned something today. And there was one thing Arnold said about applications. Personally, I applied to just one school. Okay. Come to France. So as he said, it really depends on you. It's a personal thing. I know people who apply to tons of schools and all that. So aside that, I hope that we have all learned something today. Do try to fill the feedback form. Yes, Akosia, your question has already been answered. You can go back to, you can check the feed on our YouTube. So thank you once again and have a wonderful day. Thank you to our speakers, our panelists, and yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Good weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Are we still live? Yes.
Yeah, I think Lalo should stop the live session before I embarrass myself in public. Thank you.
Sorry.
We're still live. Lalo, how far? You're on mute. Lalo, you're muted. Oh my God. I'm just gonna.
The other time, I think I ended it first. Okay, yeah, I've seen it. So, that's good.